So please remember, we're speaking algebra talk. If there's anything regarding geometry, angingen mina in that. So pain is love romanticized, and love is pain realized. Pain is love romanticized, and then love is pain realized. Yesterday, I was inspired um, from this YouTube cute couple, and he's doing his vlogging, and he's asking this young lady to be his girlfriend, and he's expressing his love and gratitude of his extension of love through like gifts and expensive gifts, and it's beautiful. And he's encouraging other people that with chivalry, this is what you do with your girlfriends, your partners, you spoil them, etc. And then in another like post that I saw, it's just not my thing personally for someone to be like calling me names. It's not my thing. So there was that that aspect, and I was like, oh, okay, interesting. And we human, we all have our different ways in which we relate in relationship. And it got me to what I've written about before, is that romance is for consumer purposes, it's for commercial purposes. Yes, there's an inclusivity of chivalry, but it is for commercialized purposes and for consumption. Romance, when you look at the etymology, it comes from Roman, right? And it used to be about how they used to go on their heroes' journeys and talk about um, their stories of how they've overcome stuff. And then over time, it changed into um, it being more romanticized, like romanticizing their stories around it. That's where romance also comes in. And in the modern day form of um, romance is loving someone. Forgot what the idea of it. I saw another explanation where someone, it was clearly like a blog of theirs, that said love is two people, romance is between two people who are in love and not married. And I was like, oh, okay, interesting view on romance. And we all have our different stories of what inspired our view on what love is. And I know typically, not all, for everyone, there would be like the Cinderella story, the Prince Charming, basically that someone is coming to save me. And generally, what it would be depicted as, it would be like a man saving a woman. That whole thing of like the damsel in distress. And then you obviously get like the Peter Pans of life and stuff like that. So the idea of what we view as romance is what we see and what we hear about. And more often than not, it becomes this thing where I mentioned earlier that it becomes commercialized, because then you'd get like Valentine's Day. You'd get all these things of when someone is romantic, the idea of romance for someone is when you're buying them gifts, when you're going on weekends away, when you are like making them cards, and you putting them like petals on that's the sort of commercialized version of what romance is. So people would be dating, and then when it comes into marriage, somehow for a majority, that romance falls away. And when I started noticing this like sort of like pattern of it's almost like this like love bombing. You see this person of the magazine, the front cover, and then you actually have to read the contents of the magazine. That's marriage, where you're going into a lot more detail and discovering who the person is beyond what you physically see. So we come into relationship with so many ideas of who we need to make the other be in our life. And sometimes you don't realize up until you realize that you're trying to make that person your project, or you're trying to make that person a character that they don't even know that they need to play in your life. Because remember, we are fulfilling out our ideas of love or the lack of love. And then it goes into the aspect of saying that what you would do if you the type of love that you had growing up, you would try to replicate it. And sometimes if you lacked love and affection, you would try to control it through your idea of this vision of your fairy tale. Because a lot of movies or Disney sort of depictions of love is you meet the person, the man comes and saves the woman generally, and then there's this happily ever after. But rarely do we get to see what happens in the happily ever after. And what I realized in my dating relationships, that the real romance, and it's not to exclude the romance that's commercialized, and that includes like chivalry and like buying gifts, and it's the thought, it's about the thought that counts, like that you are considering someone. That is what is romantic. And that consideration, when you go into living together, the real romance is someone who can help you maintain who you are or help you upgrade who you are. I'll say the real romance is someone who can help you maintain who you are, and someone who can upgrade and help you elevate to who you see yourself beyond what you see yourself as now. And really, at the root of it, the most romantic thing someone can do for you is give you peace. And then how that peace emanates, for me, it goes through the maintenance, and then being able to help me elevate who I am. And it comes to the mundane, because you hear time and time again, people would be dating, they go into relationships, they start living together. Because why? Behind the cover of the magazine, there's the maintenance of how that came about. How does this person eat? How do they maintain their health? Do they help you around with the household chores? Because usually it's in the mundane, it's the most boring things. It's, can we sleep early enough so that the next day is productive? Um, can we plan ahead enough so that we can also organize time for our personal connection beyond, our own connections that we are building beyond this relationship? Can you keep the toilet clean? It's the mundane things. Can we be bored together? Can you not always be the one who needs to have FOMO? Can you not escape? Peace of mind. That is one of the most romantic things anyone can do. And then it comes into the addition of getting the gifts and everything like that. But if we start, the danger comes in if we start off giving the gifts without being able to help someone elevate themselves or be able to maintain themselves, then it can become a problem, because that's why pain is love romanticized. We romanticize the pain from our childhood, the lack of affection that we didn't get, the lack of affection we received actually, and that we are trying to heal from. And then love, unconditional love of being able to see someone beyond the cover of the magazine, is pain realized. To say, I've healed from these things. I've healed from the illusion of the idea of love that I had. I've healed from the mother wound. I've healed from the father wound. I can fully allow myself to be with myself without needing to escape myself, because what generally you would have learned if you lacked affection and love growing up is that love equals entertainment. And that's why it's consumerism, because now you can only see that person and allow them to bask in your presence unless they are entertaining. So it becomes a form of entertainment. And that's why I said the real romance, consideration of who I am, consideration of my time, consideration of, you've seen my routine. Can you help me with my routine? Can you help me either maintain it or adapt it so that I am up leveling myself? And that's the beauty of, relationship. um, and you're going to get whatever you need to get, but we in the sort of old framework, we've romanticized the pain. In the new framework, we need to speak about the pain, we need to bring it up to life, we need to see it for what it is, and not hold and no longer hold toxicity in our lives, because we would stay with people, family members who are toxic, but because we love them and because loyalty. And then you bring someone into your life as a partner who, if you really, really think about it, the reason why I also say that romance has become overly commercialized is because when you see this person in front of a magazine and you actually have to read it. Have you noticed sometimes when you look at a magazine and I want to see how do they do this? That's like the main sort of like attraction. They are the face to their family, because you must understand that to have a family, to create a family is a business, and to be in business with someone, the romance comes through the mundane, through the daily activities of helping me and me helping you fulfill your duties and your responsibilities and your obligations. Do you understand? So it is a business when you're going into relationship. That's why there's so many situationships that are happening. That's why we're seeing the downfall of relationships, because it has been commercialized. We no longer see the person as the person. We see the person as the role that they are going to fulfill, from the lack of what our dad did or for the lack of what our moms did. So when you come into relationship, I hope this can just allow the tentacles to explore understanding that when you are going into relationship, you are potentially creating a family, and it is a business to be in a family because of the generations to come from you, or whatever is going to be birthed from you, depending if you're a couple that decides that you're not going to have kids, right? So whatever is going to be birthed from you, you need to be in mutual agreement and understand that it is the mundane, it is the boring, it's the what are we eating, who's washing the dishes, who's doing this, who's doing that. It's the maintenance of how someone called you and said, hey, I would like you to interview you and be the cover of my magazine. Do you understand? So think with the end in mind. Where is this going? It's family, it's generations. What type of family do you want to have? What type of family do you want to reside in? And if you are going to reside in a family, is the family that you're in now a representation of the family that you want? And if they are not a representation of the family that you desire to have, what are you going to do to participate so that you heal that wound between the mother, the father, the ancestral lineages and links that line up as to why you are attracting one another in the first place? because it's all ancestral healing. We've come here to break generational curses together, or we've come here to add more generational curses together. Do you understand? So, understand the business side of relationship, and then the romance will naturally, because when you are in peace, if you can help me maintain my peace, oh man, at your service. Do you understand? Because I know you are, it's not out of obligation from force of what someone has told me, an idea of who I need to be as a wife or a husband, but it's through love because you are helping me maintain and grow, you know. Particularly, I'm just going to share personally my rules in relationship. When I go into relationship, I'll share at a certain stage when I feel that there could be something here, that I'll say for attraction levels, because that's also what helps me. I'm attracted to progress. I'm attracted to thoughtfulness and understanding how people can put structure into flow. I'm really intrigued with that with someone too. I would say what attracts me to you is how I saw you. But if how I saw you downfalls, and it's a downfall that is on purpose through your habits that you're creating, then you must understand my attraction is going to um, it's going to be in question. Why? Because what is happening with your mind, that your system or your structure and flow is going out of balance. How am I participating in your life where there's no more harmony, right? So, what is attractive is progress, is growth, is being able to transform your mind daily and renew it daily, and to sustain different ways of being able to cultivate deeper sense of peace in my life, in your life, in the life and the world around you. Anyways, like I said, I didn't expect this to go here, but you're going to take whatever you needed to take. And yeah, remember algebra, geometry, tentacles, allow it to flow.